Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is Real Estate Uncensored. We have an amazing guest, my dear good friend, Mr. Howard Spencer. Now, he is an anomaly, ladies and gentlemen. You have to stick all the way to the end to understand where his lead source comes from. It comes from someplace you do not expect it coming from. I guarantee you, blew both Nick and I away when we first started. But speaking of Nick, the most amazing human being on God's green earth, what's up, Mr. Nick Sakis?
What's up, buddy? I've been kind of quiet. I feel like we missed a week because we had 4th of July, and then so it feels like it's been, I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks since we've actually been live. It's refreshing.
I know we missed you.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
missed you. And we are talking about our wonderful listeners and followers.
of
But
course.
everyone who's listening to my voice, you've heard me and Nick talk a million times. We got Mr. Lead Max over here, Nick Sakis, which, by the way, guys, I'm launching a new campaign with him right now on Lead Max. This shit is fucking fire. It is 3 clicks to Facebook heaven.
Heaven.
Fire. Yeah, we shouldn't sing. But it is amazing stuff. But Howard, welcome to the show. He doesn't use anything conventional. He uses something very unconventional. But first, Howard, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Dude, is there a plural? Is there a second you here?
Sorry, when I say us, like usually I'm so used to working in REO, and I have another agent who helps me all the time. So I always say us, but it's just me here. It's just my dog isn't even here. So
well, you know,
but
you
yeah,
and I
I've been following you for God, I don't even know how many years, but I don't know if you remember years ago we had a
coaching call. Yeah.
How
I remember
long ago was
talking
that?
with you 100%. It was, I did those calls for 2.5 years straight, and that stopped 6+ years ago. Easy, 6-7 years ago, I think it stopped. Yeah, it was the McDaniel challenge. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
And you've taken it and just ran a whole new direction with it.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about kind of your business, how you're growing your business, and kind of what your numbers are looking like this year. And that's going to get us into the meat of this conversation.
All right. Well, let's start back in the day. I was born and raised in Hunterdon County here in New Jersey. We're right outside of Flemington. I went to Temple University. I have a degree in film and media arts.
Wow.
And the day I graduated college, I went back to working with my dad building houses. So I built houses for 18 years before real estate, and I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to build houses. And I kind of, going back before I was even born, I was kind of born into real estate. My grandfather helped Jim Weichert get Weichert off the ground in the 70s and 80s. And a lot of agents in New Jersey got their license at the Weichert School of Real Estate. My grandfather wrote that course. He started that school and wrote the first course for the Weichert School of Real Estate.
No shit.
He was an office manager. My grandmother was an office manager. My sister has her broker's license in 3 different states, Virginia, Maryland, and DC. And she got into real estate before I did. And it just my sister and I, we've kind of grown up in real estate. I mean, we used to go see my grandmother at the office all the time. And, my aunt even has her license. I think at one point my mom had her license. So my dad has been a builder. And when I was younger, we used to buy at sheriff's sale. So I know the foreclosure process. I know the sheriff process, and I know the flipping process, since I was a kid. And I got my license at the Weichert School of Real Estate, and my teacher, she actually used to work with my grandfather. So she knew me, and I started with Coldwell Banker. I interviewed with a bunch of brokerages, and everybody thought I was going to go with Weichert since my grandfather.
Obviously. Yeah, that was an obvious choice.
It was like royalty over there. Yeah. And my grandmother. And I was like, nah, I interviewed with them, and then I went with Coldwell Banker because I just thought they, provided more value. And I've been with them 9 years now, and they, pretty much anytime I need something, they're always there to help. And
that's awesome.
The training, and I have transferred offices. My mentor was in the Bedminster office, Michael Downer, and then he became manager of Short Hills. I went to Short Hills with him. Then he got moved to Warren, where I am now, and then he actually went to the Union office, and then he retired from there. He's down in Naples, Florida, which we still chat. But yeah, so he's been my mentor since I started, and he was big into expireds. So when I
Hmm.
first came on, I was like, yeah, I want to do expireds. And I kept calling him and calling him. And he's like, all right, you be at my office at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. I was like, okay. So he has a 4-letter system. So he taught me the letters. He taught me how to do the spreadsheets. And then, you can get phone numbers. Back in the day, we were using Vulcan 7. So, I was just calling expireds. And this is back in, I got my license in 2014. So it was like 2014, 2015, back when there
Hmm.
was a lot of expireds. Like now there's no expireds.
Well, there's definitely not as many as there used to be. I mean, you're part of the assassins crew that we call every morning, all day long, from all over the country together. And we've all talked about that. Expireds really, they were really hot. We've switched over to circle prospecting and doing like just pendings and just listed just solds.
Yeah.
But since that dried up for us, today in today's day and age, you pivoted and you went hunting in a different pond for leads, and it's a scary pond. A lot of people are
Yeah.
scared of this pond. Why are you not scared? And what would you call this pond?
Well, let's go back to expireds. And then I got into REO back in 6 years ago. It was 2016,
Yep.
2017. And with my construction background, it proved a lot of value to my bank clients because I could go out to a house and tell them, hey, we need to fix this, this, and this. Don't worry about it. I have a contractor that can do it. We can get it done cheaper and faster than their property preservation companies, and a lot better, honestly. And it it grew from there. And there was actually a property in Flemington here that was assigned to me with a new client. And I went out there, looked at it, got an estimate from my contractor to do a full reno, and it got approved. My contractor shows up, there's a pallet of shingles there, and the kitchen is gutted. And I was like, what's going on here? Talked to the asset manager. Another guy got approved to do the job. I was like, all right, fine. So that guy starts doing the job. And after a while, I wasn't happy with the quality of work and the progress. So I called the guy up and I said, hey, can you come out here and, just do a walkthrough with me? I got some questions. So we're walking through the house and I was like, hey, what's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? Right. And he had no answers. So we get upstairs to the bedroom and I'm standing there in the bedroom and I said to him, I said, would you buy this house? And he said, what do you mean? I said, would you buy this house with the work that was done to it? And he just stood there and looked at me and I said, you wouldn't even buy your own product. And I wrote an email to the asset manager explaining all the problems. And I told him, I said, look, if you want to sell this at top dollar, this is what you got to do. If you don't want to use me, fine, go with somebody else. They sent that up the chain to the SVP. Actually, at the time, that guy was the COO. And he called me and he goes, hey, Bob wants you to come down to Texas and meet with him at
Hmm.
5-Star. I don't even know what 5-Star is. So we went down there. When I say we, me and Kyle had started working for me at that time.
And is this where this is where you guys jumped into the whole probate side, right? Because you kind of saw
No,
how
no,
the other
no.
side
This
was
is
going.
we're still in REO, and this
Oh my
is
God.
yeah. So it took off from there, and in 2019 we sold 112 houses in 9 different counties
Shit.
across the state. It was almost $30 million in inventory, and I had
Nice.
6 people in 4 different offices across the state helping me because,
Good
like,
Lord.
yeah, one guy's in Manalapan. He handled the whole east side of the state. Kyle's up in Warren County, so he was doing that area. I was doing Hunterdon and Somerset and Mercer, but like we just kept going along, and they would call us. The portfolio manager, she called me one night at 8:30, like screaming. She's like, "I got a problem in East Brunswick." I said, "Okay, we'll be there tomorrow." And they would just load properties onto us because I held my contractors to a higher standard. Because we're not going in there just doing a splash and dash on these REO properties, because a lot of days now the the hedge funds, the REOs, they'll look at a property and they'll say, hey, we can sell this for 100, but if we put 50 into it, can we get 200? Can we get a return on our renovation? And if it's possible, they'll do it. I mean, I sold a $1.3 million horse farm. We put over $200,000 into it. And they don't want flippers buying it. They want to make the profit because they're a hedge fund. They're here to get a return on their money.
Yeah.
So they would send me all over the state to fix problems. And, the contractors, I tell them,
how did you get
"Look,
involved? How did you get involved with the hedge fund? How did you get involved with that hedge fund?
I just got into REO, and then they found me online.
So that's what a lot of people are sitting around right now looking for. Like there's that talk of a potential another crash, and folks are starting to get back into the REO world right now.
Yeah.
In mid 2023, how would people be able to go around and get in contact with these hedge funds? Because there's gonna be hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to be made. I mean, how does an average agent even have a conversation with them?
It's tough now because it used to be.
You don't want to do it. Leave it. Just don't worry about it.
I mean, it's tough to get in contact with these companies because, like, a lot of asset companies have cut back. Once there was 10 asset managers, now there's 2. And they've cut back on agents. They've redistricted agents. Like one of our clients, there's only 8 agents in the state. At one time there was 80. They cut it down to 8 because they want quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And I've interviewed with different companies and I've shown them, hey, this is the standard that I have. We do professional photography, drone photography, 360 virtual tours, floor plans with room dimensions, and we make it look like a regular retail listing.
Yeah.
Because they want top dollar. If you just go in there, take the pictures, and it's dark and it's crooked and it looks like crap, you're not going to get the return on it. And I think, like Gary Vee says, one of the greatest marketing strategies is a 4-letter word: care. All you have to do is care. And we care a lot about our products because I spoke at 5 Star last year on the panel, and I told room of 300, 400 agents. I told them, I said, those photos that you take will live on the internet for infamy.
Yep.
And what happens if, like, just a regular retail person looks you up and says, oh, I want to see their past listings, or what kind of work do they do? Do you have a good description on your listings? Do you have professional photography? Everything like that. So
let me ask you a question. So basically, this is what you're describing is like a listing presentation on steroids. So it's not going to Mr. and Mrs. Seller. It's going to Mr. and Mrs. and Mrs. corporation or hedge fund who control the purse string, saying, hey, look, I am a viable agent. This is my level of work. Here's my portfolio, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's
is that what you're saying?
Provide value to your clients.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. So if I'm thinking, let me chime in here from the marketing perspective, right? If I was a new agent, I wanted to get in the REO world, besides just knocking down doors of like, hey, Howard's saying it's not worth your time because he wants to hold it all for himself. Create a case study. So if you can create a case study, so even if you've never done an REO before, you take one of your so Howard said some thing that was really insightful. These people want to make money. That's all it comes down to. The REO, these banks, how do we make more of a return? So if you can create case studies around your listing procedure, like he said, what are the fundamental things that you do differently? How do you extract more value? Do you have any current examples of regular listings that went for over market value in your area that you can create a case study and say, if you provided me with these tools, I can connect with these contractors. We can do the same thing in the REO world. Here's my case study. So that way you have something to present instead of just trying to knock on small banks and say, hey, I can do REOs too. I got a couple of contractor buddies that I know. Have a case study. You might not have a whole portfolio like Howard of 25, 30, 100 properties. If you have 1 or 2 properties that you've partnered with a contractor and put some granite countertops and paint and got more of it, like, do something like that.
Howard, would you recommend something like that? I mean, putting together a case study, is that a wise move in your opinion?
I mean,
there we go.
to get to get into REO,
Way to go, Nick.
it's tough because like people think
You got to
you know,
have something to show for what you can do, right?
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. You know, and even now, like I'll send, I try to do a lot of video on my listings, and like I'll post them on LinkedIn, and you know I'll send them to the SVP or the asset manager and say, hey, this is one of your properties, just so they see it.
Right.
And
Right.
I know some of the COOs and the CEOs and everything, they follow me. They follow me on Instagram. So I always am conscious about what I
Yeah.
say, what I show, what I do. You know, because they might look at it and go. And I had a COO. She texted me one day and she goes, "That house you were just in." She saw my Instagram story. She goes, "That house you were just in. Aren't you afraid of somebody going to break in there?" And it was one of her properties. And I
Yeah.
said, "But all the photos are on Zillow. Everybody can see." I mean, I don't have a huge following on Instagram. I
Yeah.
have like 1,100 followers. It's not like I got, a million
But they're all
followers. And,
asset managers.
everybody's going to see it. So, and she was like, "Oh yeah, good point." There are some things that I don't show.
But your
on
document,
there.
and the other thing you said too is, so you said care about what you do. Obviously, you want to have you want to have some level of efficacy, and like just actually care about what you do. So that's cool. But then you said product, and I think that's one thing that a lot of agents don't do with their listings is they don't view them as products, and they don't market them as their products, as their store, right? So like if you were selling shoes or a car or whatever, like that's your product. Your listing is your product. You should market it as such. And it sounds like you do that very well. And so when I say like a case study, that would be your listing product. How are you taking this house and maximizing the marketing of this product in order to get it in front of the right people? Instead of getting in front of buyers, now you're trying to get it in front of an asset manager or somebody that you can prove your worth to get into this world, right? Because all it takes is one handshake. You make one partnership with one bank or one asset manager, and then all of a sudden you can snowball into other relationships, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have talked to asset managers over LinkedIn, and I've said, hey, we work with A, B, and C. This is, you can look on YouTube. This is some of the videos I've done. I put together a video on BombBomb, kind of like a resume,
Yep.
and I
Mm.
have one for retail and I have one for REO. So when I connect with somebody on LinkedIn, I can send them my REO video and say, "Hey, look,
Mm.
this is the type of value we can provide to you. We can do lock changes, trash outs, full renovations. After that is done, we can do drone photography, professional photography, marketing like that. Market it as a retail property. I'm not just knocking on the door saying, 'Hey, you got any properties I can sell?'
Yeah.
No, that's not.
So
It's
Love that.
it so it's really truly a business for you. It's not a hobby. It's not like I'm going to try to get into this. It's this is how you make your money, and you're a true
yeah.
practitioner at this craft, because this is a muddy water hole, folks. I mean, if you don't know where to step, you might just step in a big pile of what, and you're going to walk away with a bad feeling about the whole system
Yeah.
and program. And you hear Howard talk about this, and you're like, well, he makes it sound so freaking easy because
Yeah.
he's putting protocols into place.
Yeah. And it's, there are times, the bad side of REO, like I have to go knock on somebody's door and tell them that they don't own that house anymore.
Yeah.
I've had people scream and
Oof.
yell at me. I've had them chase me off the porch.
What
I've
about the fronting of cash of things that have to be
Cash for
done, right?
keys.
that's another thing.
It's
Well,
a big
cash for
thing.
keys, the check comes from the asset company, but like I got to pay a $6,000 water bill or
Right. Yeah.
water and sewer bill that's
People
been
don't know about
overdue.
that. Yeah.
You got to
Ooh.
pay for the electric, the oil, the gas, everything in water, the sewer, and then I got to pay the contractor to trash the place out. That's another $5,000.
Whew.
I got to pay. I got to pay
There's
the
a lot of
landscaper
float.
to
There's a lot of
mow
float.
the
Yeah.
lawn every 2 weeks, and then you got to submit this, back to the company and hope you get reimbursed in the next 30 to 60 days.
Yeah.
At one point, a couple years ago, I was out almost $30,000 in invoices.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that hurts just
So
hearing that number.
I do have a system in place now that I don't put out that money. So
Yeah.
Well, so when did so many questions here. One of the things that really kind of people get into when they think about this, they're like, this would be a perfect niche because everybody wants a deal. And when people come to you as mainly as investors, they're like, yeah, find me a foreclosure or or a bankruptcy or something along those lines. And my response to them, and I'd love to hear your response to this. My response is, do you want a good deal, or do you want to go try to buy something on the courthouse steps in a foreclosure because that's what the mainstream media has been telling you to do? And they're like, well, we want a good deal. And I said, okay, so we've identified it's not truly a foreclosure or bankruptcy or probate. It's purely a good deal. And agents that I have come across, including myself at one point, wanted to get in and do what you do, but I just don't have the cojones for it. You do, obviously, and you're very good at it. But it's sexy to say, well, I can hold the keys to all the investors. Once I get this portfolio, I can sell all these properties to the investors. Well, two problems there. One, you have to become very well known to the banks. Two, you have to find the investors. So how did you build both of those verticals of people to connect with?
it's not what you think. Like everybody thinks it's
Good.
back in 2008, where banks were just blowing properties out.
Right.
It's not like that anymore. Like I said,
That's
they'll
right.
analyze a property and say, hey, should we renovate this or should we sell it? And there is no backdoor deals. Everything gets put on the market. And they'll look at it and
Interesting.
they'll say, hey, for the first 7 days, we don't look at any offers. 7 to 21 days, owner occupants only.
Yeah.
If we don't sell it to an owner occupant within the first 21 days, then it's open to investors. They
No
want
kidding.
homeowners.
Huh.
Because
I
they want to maximize their dollar. They're not dumb.
Right.
They're not trying to. That's not compassion. That's
If
the homeowner is going to pay more money than an investor. So
right,
yeah.
that too. But somebody might go in and buy it and say, "Hey, look, I can live here and upgrade the kitchen or upgrade the
Right.
bathroom.
Yeah.
I'm kind of handy like that." Or they just say, "Hey, we're really looking for a place, and it's a little rough, but we'll clean it up."
right.
Whereas an investor, he'll go in there, gut the place, and then flip it. And then those people who were able to afford it, now they can't afford it.
Yep.
So it's all about, like affordability.
That's really
And they're
interesting
still
because
getting,
huh?
they're still getting fair market value.
But it's actually really refreshing actually to hear this, Howard, because I honestly thought that it was still back in the wild west days, but thank goodness they've been able to streamline it, and probably have done for a long period of time. I just haven't paid attention, and I've been afraid of what the experience was last time. So it's not as doom and gloom and this big hairy monster that hides in the closet anymore. It's something that's very easy to access if you have the wherewithal, the capital to float all these different finances, and if you're willing to take a beating, mentally and sometimes verbally from angry folks. This is a very viable option for folks who just are good to roll and they just don't care. They just want to make money, and this is something they could be good at. You would encourage them to get into the game?
Yeah. I mean, you could.
Wow, sell me on that
He's
one
not.
a little
So
more.
No,
here's one thing he
it's
said.
hard because there's so many agents.
Right.
That
Yeah.
were,
He said there's
in
8 agents in your county, right? Or your state?
No. Well, for this one client, there's only 8 of us in the state.
Right.
But
8 in the
Jeez.
state for one client.
There was so many of us back in 2018 and
Right.
2019.
Everybody.
March of 2020, the tap got shut off.
Right.
There was no more sheriff sales. Nothing was going back to the bank. And luckily, I had enough inventory to carry me through 2020 and 2021. Between renovations and evictions, and I think once in a while we got a property. But even now, I mean, we were getting probably 10 properties a month. Now, I don't even
Jeez.
think I've gotten 10 properties so far this year.
Yeah.
Wow.
But if you
so
apply the same idea behind your regular real estate business of just inherently, so Howard is more valuable to an asset manager than, say, Greg McDaniel, because he
Hey.
has all. Let's pause for a second. He has the wherewithal to take a property and go from here to here and get that asset manager proven extra value of $50,000 because of his knowledge of building, because of his knowledge of renovation, because of his connections with contractors. He has inherently made himself more valuable. Not that Greg doesn't have connections. I'm just giving an example. Calm down. I see you're some steam coming out of your ears. If you're a regular agent, forget the REO side of things. Make yourself inherently more valuable with your offer and what you actually provide to the consumer. So I know Greg has some great programs. Other agents listen to the show have some great programs. But if you're just an agent taking a cell phone picture and trying to get 6% of a commission, those days are gone, right? And whether it's an asset manager you're trying to get in front of or a regular listing or your neighborhood or whatever, like add more value, add more to your product that's going out there, and you're going to win, whether you're in this small group of 8 people that are dealing with asset managers or in a niche luxury market of a golf course community, right? Like treat your business as such, just provide more value.
Yeah.
Yeah. And years ago, it was probably like 8 years ago, there was an agent up in Westchester, New York. Shout out to Aaron Wittenstein. I drove an hour and a half. What?
I was going to say, which one? And there's 2 of them up there.
I drove an hour and a half up to Westchester, New York to see him. He was at Keller Williams, make expire calls. And he was sitting there, and I just sat there and watched him for like an hour and a half, make expired calls because I wanted to get better at that. And afterwards we talked and he was like, look, what are you trying to do? I was like, well, I'm doing expires and, I want to do like the pre-foreclosures and everything. He's like, no. Pick one thing and be really good at it. And once you master that one thing, then try to find something else to add on to that. And he actually gave me his copy of The One by Gary Keller, and I cannot find it, and I'm really upset about it because Aaron gave it to me. So
signed copy from Aaron.
Yeah.
Nice.
So when REO dried up, we had to try to find other things. So I went back to pre-foreclosures because once the moratoriums were lifted, all the paperwork started rolling again for the pre-foreclosures. So, in Hunterdon County is the only county in New Jersey that the land records aren't online. So I have to physically go down to the Hall of Records in Flemington, which is only like 10 minutes down the road, sit at the computer, bring them all up, write it all down, and then come home and do my work on it. So I know the process of, the pre-foreclosure, and I have a 4-letter system that I send out to the people, then I start calling them. And I use colored envelopes, and it looks like a card, right?
Oh, that's nice.
So
that's nice.
I put fun stamps on them. I got flower stamps. I go to the post office, and a lady loves me. She's like, "What do you want?" I said, "What do you got?" And she pulls the whole book out of stamps, and I'm like, "Ooh, I like these, and these." She's like, "Okay." So put a fun stamp on it. I put my home return address on it because if it goes out to a house and it can't be delivered, it comes back to me. Then I go out to the house. More than likely, it's vacant. So we got to track the people down from there. We got to find them online, see if there's a forwarding address or anything. Then I put them back in the system, send them another letter to their new address. Eventually, I start calling them, which I have to catch up on that. But yeah, that's, pre-foreclosures. And I could say we've closed 11 properties this year. 6 of them have been cold calls, and I think 4 or 5 of them have been pre-foreclosures.
Nice. Okay. So let's pivot really quickly. Let's step into calls. Because I think a lot of folks are terrified of the phone these days. I mean, texting and some social media is pretty good. The phone rings. It's like the old comedian that would do the sketch on when you were younger, and someone knocked on the front door. Everybody got up in the house. It was super exciting. All the lights went on, and everyone had their Sunday best on. They're like, "Hi, come on in. Here's some cake. Here's some coffee. Let's sit and have a conversation." That was originally when phones used to ring. Now it's lights off, shut up kids, lock them in a closet, all lights off, security on, guard dogs out, don't let anybody know you're there. That's kind of what the mass public thinks about
all the cars in the driveway.
All the cars in the driveway, and you see the lights shut off. You're like, "Oh shit!" Click. But it's not like that anymore. You have, and I get to spend every day with you doing calls. you've mastered this unique script and this unique, I guess, mindset when you do these calls. It doesn't sound hard. It does not sound forced. It sounds very natural. And the conversations you have, from what I've heard, have been very positive. Of course, you get some yahoos every once in a while, but that's just normal.
Yeah.
But calling is not that scary.
Yeah. There are some days that I do have call reluctance, but this,
We all do.
Yeah. This group that I'm in, everybody's like, look, we're making calls. And even like sometimes, like we were just earlier today, some guys were making calls and I was just doing some paperwork, and it's just being able to have the camaraderie, and everybody's like, hey, we're making calls. And then, we jump on and we start making more calls. But like in the beginning, yeah, you're going to be scared a little, you're going to get kicked in the teeth and people are not going to like you. But eventually somebody's going to go, hey, yeah, you know what? Thanks for calling. I need some help. And that's the thing with the pre-foreclosures is like, I called one in Pennsylvania, and I actually spoke to the guy's sister. She lives in Kentucky. And I left her a message. She called me back and she goes, is my brother in trouble? I said, yes, he is. He's on the sheriff's list. She's like, all right, what do we need to do? I said, well, we have 2 months till the sheriff's sale. I said, we can get the property on the market. How much does he owe? This much. Okay, I think we can sell it for this much. He'll have some equity. I think we should find him a rental. We'll pay the 12 months up front. He can get his life back together, get on his feet. She's like, all right, sounds like a plan. I'll be there in 2 weeks. I'm going to help him pack up the house. You come over, take the pictures, list the property. We're good, right? Yeah, we're good.
Bam.
Some people, like one property I sold 2 weeks ago. I've been talking to him since October, and I tracked him down from his old tenant because he didn't even live in the property at the time. And I called him, and he had moved back in, and he's like, well, what are my options? I said, you can sell it if you have equity. You can short sell it if you don't. You could do a loan mod or anything. He's like, I don't want to live here. Okay. He's like, I can sell it. I said, yes, you can sell it. It's your house. He's like, I don't want to live here. Let's sell it. So eventually we got it listed, and the day we accepted an offer was the day he got on the sheriff's list.
No way.
So, you get 2 4-week extensions. So before closing, I had filed an extension for him, which we actually closed early, which was awesome. He walked away with $40,000 cash.
Damn. All debt free, just gone, right?
Yeah. He paid off. He owed almost 10 grand to the HOA. He owed 4,200 to the water and sewer department. So he paid off the loan, paid off the water and sewer, paid off the HOA. We had an attorney, your transfer tax, your basic fees of a closing. And there was enough equity that he walked away with money, and he doesn't have a foreclosure on his record. He's 40.
Huge.
I think he's 44.
It's my age. Okay.
Yeah. He's a couple years older than me. So, he was super happy, and my attorney is great. She's on emails constantly. He was so happy when we closed. He's like, everything went smoothly. It went exactly the way you said it was going to go. I said, I know what I'm doing. I've done this before.
I feel like there's going to be a lot more of this coming up.
Yeah. And
because everybody's got equity right now, right? So it's not.
Well, no. Everybody thinks that.
Nick, no.
Because
wait a minute.
Prices are up.
Yeah.
But some people like to use their house as an ATM machine, and they keep pulling money out, pulling money out.
Have you seen this new HELOC credit card that they're starting to advertise?
I saw an ad on Instagram, and I sent it to my friend Kyle. I was like, is this predatory lending?
It's a new Visa. I forget the name of it. I've been seeing ads all over the place for the past 2 weeks. Something like that. Yeah.
It's
but
a 4-letter
like instant approval. Just put in your address and your social, get 50 grand immediately. And
this is a HELOC.
No.
This is a
Visa
HELOC
credit card.
You can use the money whenever you want. I'm like,
no.
Trust me. I had a HELOC one time, and I got in trouble.
Yeah.
Ooh, that is scary.
Never again.
Did we not learn from 2006 or 2007, 2008, 2009 not to just purely hand out money all willy-nilly, even though the federal government prints it literally at will? And and it completely is foobar in our economy right now. If anyone's listening to this in the future and for 2023, it is astonishing that they would even bring into play a HELOC where it's like fog mirror.
It makes
get
perfect
loan.
sense, dude, because there's a lot of people sitting on a lot of equity. So from
Yeah,
a
there
business
is.
perspective, if you don't know the dangers of a HELOC and you get a simple, easy to use credit card where you can click a couple buttons on a website because you know you sit on equity and you know you can't move because you can't sell your house and there's no houses available, it's a perfect time for a product like that. Not for the consumer, for the business that started the product, right?
Yeah. And what happens when you drain all your equity out of your house and then home prices go down next year?
Right.
Instantly we're underwater.
Yeah.
And even, even now with home prices being so inflated, you got the people putting like VA and USDA 0% down or 3.5% down. I'm seeing people on the pre-foreclosure list that bought a house last year or the year before.
Right.
And they're already in foreclosure. And, with commissions and everything else like that, you're underwater instantly.
Yeah. Well, speaking of lists, so we didn't even get into this yet. It's already almost 40 minutes in.
Yeah.
And we had a great talk pre-show about probate.
So
I want to know a little bit more about that and what you do.
I got into probate. I guess, like all the leads, I looked at them like years ago, and then I saw a couple of their, they do like a weekly YouTube video, and I was like, I could figure this out. So the surrogate computer is right next to the Hall of Records computer. So I go down there, I pull the data, and I have, the only ones that I pull are where the deceased has a different address than everybody else that are on the probate filing, because chances are that's now a vacant house. I don't want to call somebody that their husband passed away or their wife passed away or even their child passed away.
Yeah.
I don't want to call those people. So I just call the people that I think the house is vacant.
So wait, so you don't want to call? Wait, who don't you want to call?
Say like you're, all right. Say my wife passed away, right?
God forbid, knock on wood. No. Okay,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I wouldn't want to call me, the husband who just lost his wife,
right,
about
try to sell their house.
Hey, I'm so sorry to hear that and everything. Hey, you want to sell your house?
Right.
I think,
got a good point.
Some people will, but that kind of.
So it's a probate absentee owner.
Yes, let's call it that.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
And we've had
absentee owner is powerful, right, in itself.
Yeah.
Now you have
people,
a probate on
know
top
about
of it.
Absentee owners, and hey, the market's up. Hey, how can I help you? And the script that I have for the probate is, I know you lost a loved one and everything. I'm just calling to see, I help in these situations. I was just calling to see if we can work together. And people were like, well, what can you do? I said, well, I work with a local estate sale company. I have local contractors in case we need to do some repairs or, do some garbage removal, trash out, and then we can get the house on the market. So case in example, there was a house up in Belvedere. The woman passed away. I called her son, who's in Chicago. And I said, hey, I left him a message. He called me back. I said, hey, I'm sorry, but this is what we can do. He's like, all right, sounds good. From the time from the time I called him to the time we closed, 64 days.
Really?
So I called him and we went over to the house. We met. It was his mother had passed away, and we met his uncle. And he showed us the house. I called him up and said, okay, here's the estimate to trash out the basement. You got to get the lawn mowed, which the uncle was going to do. I said, we'll do photos with everything in the house. That way, it looks lived in.
Yeah.
After we get it on the market, then we can clean the house out. I got him an estimate for that. And we sold it over asking, and the buyer actually took everything in the house.
Wow.
So he didn't have to remove anything. But the uncle and some other relatives, went in and took what they wanted. But he was so happy. He's like, if you hadn't have called me, I don't even know if this property would be on the market right now.
Yeah.
He didn't have to come back to New Jersey. Our attorney handled everything for him, mailed him the documents, everything she needed. She either emailed or mailed him. He was like, this was so great. Thank you so much. And I know in these times, like, I've talked to other people, they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, just get me a key. I will take care of everything.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it carries over from my construction and my REO experience. We're dealing with a vacant property. We need to, make sure that the heat is on, make sure there's no water getting in. We need to trash it out. We need to get it on the market. We need to make sure the lawn is mowed. It's all those processes.
I
Yeah,
like the strategic part of this, though. Sorry, Greg.
No. After you. I go ahead, Nick.
I like, so if I'm so the first time I'm meeting you or talking to you, I know you do shows with Greg and you guys call all the time, but like the very strategic part about what I'm hearing right now. So like you're in the REO world, you have strategic relationships with key people to get you business from a high value perspective. Now on the probate side, you're not just loading up a triple line dialer and calling thousands of people every day. You're very strategic about what list you're pulling and how you're contacting these people. And I think it's paying off, right? I think a lot of people, when you think about real estate cold calling, it's always the first thought of triple line dialer, pound, go for no and all of that. But am I wrong to assume that you're probably not calling 1,000 absentee probates a month? It's probably more like 100, right?
No,
If
I mean,
that.
I might pull 30
Yeah.
leads
Yeah.
and whittle it down to 18.
Right.
And then I start calling those people.
Very strategic.
And
I
sometimes,
I think a lot of people can learn from that.
yeah. And sometimes
yeah.
like I'll get the leads. I'll come home. That property's already listed. I'm like, oh,
Right.
damn. Because, like say somebody passes away around here and the heirs live around here. They might know an agent. So, it passed away and she's like, they might say like, hey, we need to get this on the market. One of my friends from high school, his aunt passed away and I'm helping him with the property. And I saw the name come up on the list and I'm like, I know that guy. And I called him. We had a good conversation. I went over there and looked at it. He needed a CMA for the accountant. I got it to him right away. Now we're cleaning the house out and I'm hoping to take pictures this week. But he's like, I want to get this house sold. He's like, I don't want to see you coming over here anymore. And that's the thing. Like people, there was one up in Phillipsburg. I was calling a woman. Her sister passed away. So Phillipsburg and Barnegat, where she lives, over a 2-hour ride. So she's coming up here trying to clean the place out. And she's like, I don't want to list it. I just want a cash buyer. I said, okay. I said, can I bring a cash buyer? Can I meet you? Bring a cash buyer with me. She's like, okay. So Kyle and I went over there. Kyle's my cash buyer. And we walked through the house. We had a great conversation. We went outside. Kyle and I talked about it. We made her an offer. And she's like, I accept it.
Jeez. Okay.
And I told her, I said, whatever you want to leave in the house, just leave it. And there was like, a dining room table and a couch and a bed and a dresser. I said, don't worry about it. I will take care of it. She's like, oh my God, that's so great. Thank you so much. I didn't know what I was going to do or how I was going to move it. So we closed early, closed in like 10 days. She was so happy. She got what she wanted, the price she wanted. She didn't have to do any more work. She didn't have to travel up here anymore. And that's the other thing. Like, it's not just about a paycheck for everybody. Everyone's like, oh, I just want to get a house sale. Sometimes, you got to do a little bit more work.
And that's what comes down to this. We think that we can just get away with the minimal amount of work. Jonathan Hawkins had put up a comment here that he called a widow. And long story short, the lady was so upset and heartbroken. She lost her best friend and husband of 50 years that he teared up too. And this business is not for the folks that are callous. This takes a lot of an emotional roller coaster on the agent side because you're dealing with people going through some one of the hardest things that they can go through, either a death or a loss of some sort. Either financially or emotionally or personally, and you're there as a support system, not as a cash grab. And I've cried with clients. I know, Howard, you have, Nick, you have. It's horrible to see things, but you also see the joy on their faces because you've been able to be that vehicle to take away that pain, or at least a small portion of that pain, to let them, start the healing process and move on in life, and whatever that means for them. But it is taxing on your emotions because you care for these folks and you see yourself potentially in their shoes,
See what you
or
said
maybe
right
you
there?
were in their shoes.
Care.
You care. You
Right.
have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
But
And that's,
I mean, I didn't have Howard call me because I went through a bankruptcy and a foreclosure. I didn't have Howard call me in 2008ish. I lost my house, I lost two of my houses, lost two of my cars, and my girlfriend at the time. Thank God she left because she said I didn't make enough money for her. So fuck off. And I had predatory people calling me. Not once did somebody call me and say, "Hey man, I'm here to help you." Like, bro, that sucks. Like,
let's
how
figure
can I
out a
assist
plan.
you? No one said that to me ever. And I would have worked with them if someone had lent out, because I was so ashamed. I hid in my house. I couldn't afford a Bud Light back when people drank Bud Lights. And and it's amazing the difference, Howard. Your voice is powerful because you honestly come across as caring. And that is huge.
Would you have answered the phone if somebody called?
I was so gun shy, dude. I was afraid of anything because I had the sheriff's notice
Right.
on my front doors.
And
I felt like an asshole.
That's
Horrible.
the thing. Like, if I could get everybody to just answer the phone and have a
Right.
conversation with me. And I've emailed people and I've said, look, there's no obligation. Can we just have a conversation? Like, let's
Yeah.
talk about this. Sometimes I tell people, actually it was a couple of weeks ago. I had to tell somebody, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. It's too late.
Yeah, that's hard. That's a
I
hard
call
call.
them and say, look, this is what I can do. Tell me your situation. They tell me the situation. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's too late. But then I'll tell them, I say, look, this is what's going to happen after the sheriff's sale. An agent's going to come to you. They're going to say, hey, I represent the bank. We currently own this property. Do you want to do cash or keys? The faster you move out, the more they'll pay you. They will start the eviction process immediately.
It's their house.
Yeah. If you don't agree to cash for keys, you will be evicted. Now you got a foreclosure on your record. Now you got an eviction on your record.
So if someone's terrified like I was, hiding in my house, afraid of my friends, afraid of the world, afraid of any knock on that front door, that phone that I didn't know what number that was, how many times do you follow up with folks until you're just like, okay, this person has obviously decided to go a different direction in life?
When the sheriff's sale happens.
That's when you just say, okay, well, I tried, and you didn't want the olive branch, and I'm so sorry for this, but this is the way it is.
One of the things I did, I do now is, we monitor the sheriff's sale lists. Kyle monitors the Warren County. I do the Hunterdon County and Somerset, and actually Bucks County now too.
Mm-hmm.
And I've called people on the sheriff's sale list, and I say, hey, look, this is, I can get your house sold at no cost to you. That's when you go into a short sale. My attorney that I work with, his fees are paid for by the bank. Our commissions are paid for by the bank. On one of the last closings I had, I ended up paying a $170 water bill because I told the woman it would be no cost to her, and I just ate it.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how many other agents would do that. And there are times, I'll pay, even on my REO properties, I'll pay an electric bill, or I'll have something fixed and not submit the invoice, because it needed to get done.
And
but
you know what? Are you an anomaly in your side of the industry that does that, or is that common practice for folks that practice with foreclosures and probates?
I don't know.
It's just something that you adopted.
I kind of just operate on my own island. What other people do, doesn't really have an effect on me. If you're not providing value, it might have an effect on me that makes me look better. I mailed a letter. There was a woman who passed away here in Hunterdon County. Her sister lives in Massachusetts. I couldn't find a phone number for her. I mailed her a letter. She got the letter, sent it to her attorney down in Tampa, who looked me up online and then called me. And she goes, "Hey, this is so-and-so. I'm working with, so-and-so from Massachusetts." I'm like, I recognize that name. She goes,
Uh-oh.
"You sent her a letter. I looked you up online and we like what we see. We'd like to work with you." I was like, "Great." I said, "You're in Tampa. She's in Massachusetts. I'm centrally located. I'll take care of it all." But I did meet them at the house one day and, gave her a list of contractors to do inspections and, get stuff repaired and everything.
So
that's a prime example of people are going to look you up online. Like, what do your listings look like? What does your, presence online look like? Like
you want to
Facebook,
know,
Instagram, YouTube, all that kind of stuff.
you want to know something funny about that, Howard? I went to a listing appointment. My good friend Monica referred a friend of hers who I've actually known for a while through different friend connections. And she's like, "Greg," so she and her sister met me at the property, walked through it, and I'm like, "Well, I know Monica referred me, so on and so forth." The seller looks at me and goes, "Well, Greg, I kind of looked you up online." I'm like, "Oh boy, what did you see?" And she's like, "You know what? I watched a couple of your podcasts." I'm like, "Oh boy." And again, I liked what I saw. And I'm like, "Oh, very cool." And here's the kicker. She's like, "Then I went to your Facebook and I saw your friends, and I saw Monica who referred you. And then I saw my ex-sister-in-law who lives in Arizona, and she follows you. And because she follows you, you know what? I think you're the right person for the job." I'm like, "Thank you, sister-in-law.
Yeah.
Thank you. I need to send out a card to you and say thank you very much." But your online presence does matter quite a bit. Now, you and I joke around. We put out this crazy podcast and have a blast. I do other crazy stuff, beers and calls, so on and so forth. But at no point, Matt and I, who was one of the original co-hosts of the show, we made an agreement when we started the show. We will never talk about sex. We're never going to talk about religion, and we're never going to do anything racial or demoralizing to any gender or any race or any sexual orientation. That's just not the way we roll. And that decision has saved our behind several times because this is a job. This is a vehicle to be more visible for your job. And folks are going to be looking at you. Some will like you, some won't. But do your darndest to stay away from certain subject matters that don't need to be brought into business so you can be more reliable for folks who might not share every single point of view you have in life, but you're an expert and you're professional at the craft that you spend a lot of the time, honing, aka your job, your business. So online thing is just so more relevant than you can possibly imagine these days. We just think we put it out into the universe, into this thing called the internet, and it just vanishes. Nick is a marketing expert. Nick, does it vanish from the internet when you put a photo or a comment?
Vanish. It's a blueprint. It never goes away.
See, it never goes away.
That goes back to the beginning of the conversation. When I spoke on a panel last year, I told the people, I said, those pictures will live on the internet forever.
Yeah. They will. I actually got rid of some photos of myself when I used to do some camping. And I'm like, okay, and I didn't even know they were on my Facebook. Who knows how many people have seen them?
Yeah.
Hopefully I got rid of them. But
sometimes I look back at my Facebook memories and I'm like, wow, you were an angry person. Like, you wrote that? Like, now, I have a meter check because, like I said, there are people that follow me that, are higher up on the chain of my clients. Like, I don't put out, stuff like you said, the political or the sexual or the, verbiage. Like, on my social media, I don't curse on my social media.
Right.
I have a picture
in real life. Yes, I do. I'm a real person. Some of the conversations that I have, you don't want to hear, but still, like, you have to, put that out there. And, when I go to people's houses and I knock on the door, that's a job that I have to do.
Yeah.
And like Kyle has told me, he's like, I can't, and he's been with me for 6 years. He's been with me at almost every house I do this at. I knock on the door and I tell people and I hand him a letter, and he tells me, he's like, I just can't do it. He goes, I can watch you do it. He goes, I can't do it. And I'm married. I have 2 kids. I have a heart. I'm a real person. This is a job I have to do.
Yep.
And if it's not me, somebody else is going to do it.
So, Nick, you said there's a photo. You're terrifying
I was just saying
me.
from a previous one of my favorite photos I've ever created for you
Oh, I know which one you're going to
was
push
this right
up.
here.
Yeah.
Speaking of old Matt Johnson, we made a People magazine cover from homeless to heartthrob with an old
McDaniel gets
picture of
arrested
Matt when
again.
he was a drummer. And then up in the top right or left hand corner, you got Greg McDaniel gets arrested again. Living in infamy in all of its glory.
Oh my God, that was still one of the best things I've ever seen, Nick. We have got to start doing people cover magazines for our shows, but that is hilarious. We'll put that. Nick will post a link to that in our comments so you guys can take a look at it, or I'll just post it on my Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that because it is laughable. So let's do this, Howard. There's a lot of stuff we can keep talking. Jonathan does want to go over one quick thing before we get out of here. He wanted to see what the verbiage is in your letters. I think that might be a little too long for right now. So either we can answer that briefly now, or you guys can connect on another line.
I mean, on my pre-foreclosure ones, I actually wrote the letters, and it's just saying like, "Hey, I can help you. Hey, if it's a short sale, I can get this sold at no cost to you. Time is of the essence. Please give me a call." Sometimes people call. Most of the time, they don't. I have to hunt them down. As far as the probate letters, I had ChatGPT write them.
Hey,
So I've had them write like vacant property letters, a bunch of different letters. I've had them write emails. I have a chain of emails that I send out to people that are in foreclosure. Even like nowadays, like another thing that people can do real quick, just riding down the road and you see a house and it looks run down. Write down the address, look the people up, hunt them down. If it's just sitting there, maybe they don't know anything about it, or maybe it's an error, or maybe they're like, "Hey, you know what? Finally, somebody reached out to me that can help me. Yeah, go ahead, let's sell it."
Isn't there an app for that where you can pay drivers to be like Uber drivers or bus drivers or UPS drivers?
There's plenty of. There's like Deal Machine. There's
Deal Machine. Yeah.
Prop Stream. There's all types of stuff. But as realtors, we're out there driving around all the time, and my eye catches these. I just caught one this morning, right next door to my REO property, and I was like, "Wait a minute, nobody's mowing the lawn at that house." The bushes look kind of overgrown. Sometimes there's a house down the street here. I showed it to my wife the other day. I said, "There's a house there." She's like, "Where?" It's so overgrown, you can't even see the house anymore. But the guy, he doesn't have a mortgage, and he's a veteran, so he doesn't pay taxes. It's like he doesn't exist.
It's good and bad.
Yeah.
Dude, okay, so it's funny that you mentioned that. Yesterday I was on a walk with my dog. It's so weird. I go for walks with my dog. And I ran across the street, this house that I've always looked at as this giant lot. It's on this really kind of remote, but yet kind of very central location. We're talking like fences around it. Like you wouldn't let your dog sleep in these houses that are there. But they bought it for $1,050,000 in 2021. And I'm like, well, shoot, they haven't done anything with it. I'm going to call. I got some cash buyers that want to spend some money. Let's build something here. So obviously they're sitting there, and that's the kind of stuff. But basically what you're saying is be vigilant and be aware of your surroundings. Look for opportunities wherever they may lie. Have your phone out, guys. There's this crazy thing on Google phones, on iPhones, that you take a photo of something, it'll geolocate your position in case you just forget what street you're on. It'll geolocate if you know how to figure out that data out of the photos, and then go in there and run some numbers. Go to RPR, pull up some stats, go by, drop them off something in a nice little branded piece of paper going, "Hey, look, I saw your house. I have investors. Have you ever thought about selling? They love the neighborhood. They specifically said they like your location on the street best." Never tell them their house looks a piece of shit and you think that the walls are going to cave in. That's probably the wrong approach.
Yeah,
but if you have a buyer, that'd be the wrong approach.
I have postcards in my car and in my truck, and if I see a house looks kind of abandoned, I'll stop and put a card down. On one side it says, "Sorry, we missed you."
Great idea.
And on the other side, it's just like a regular postcard. It says, "Please call me regarding your home."
That's a really good idea, Howard. I love that.
Yeah, and there's no address on it, and they're blanks. So I just have a stack of them in my car, and if I knock on a door and nobody answers, I just stick it in the door. And I've had people call me. They're like, "Hey, you were at my house." I'm like, "Oh yeah, which house was it?" "Oh that. Oh yeah, I was calling to see if you were interested in selling. I noticed this. There was it was 2 weeks ago. I got a call from the state police.
Oh,
that the trooper, he's like, "Hey, are you Howard Spencer?" I said, "Yeah. What's up?" He goes, "Oh, this is Trooper so and so from the Kingwood Barracks, which is right here where I live." And I'm like, I don't have any properties. I hope I'm not in trouble. He goes, hey, do you know so-and-so? I said, yeah. I said, he lives over on such and such a road. He's like, yeah. You've been trying to get a hold of him? I said, yeah. He's like, well, he called me and asked me to call you to tell you to stop calling him. Like, okay. I was like, he could have called me and said, hey, Howard, knock it off. I've called him. I've emailed him. I've been to his house. I've mailed him letters. I've talked to his neighbor. I am relentless. And then I'm like, a lot of people are like, hey, I'm not interested. Okay, fine. There's hundreds of other houses out there I could be trying to contact, but this is an abandoned house. Let's get it on the market. Let's sell it. We're 5 minutes outside of Flemington. This is, a desirable area.
Yeah.
And
now you did, and the cop
it's a
said, hey,
smaller
that was the cop just double checking, like, hey man, are you really who you are? Did he search you out, kind of sniff around and make sure you weren't like some like wholesaler poacher?
Nope.
But you were.
I said, I'm a licensed realtor with Coldwell Banker. Yes, that was me trying to contact him.
And he's like, okay, you have a good day. And you're like, all right.
He's like, I don't really want to call you, but I have to. I'm like, hey, I have a job to do. You have a job to do. I totally understand.
It's cool, brother. It's cool. All right, let's end there because there's a lot of stories you can go down, but we are creeping up on time here. Wow, we are already over time. I just looked at the clock. This is how fast good knowledge comes at you guys. It comes hard and fast, very, very full of wonderful tidbits and tricks and everything else. If you guys saw me looking down at any point throughout this entire video, it's because I've been scribbling like a madman. If you guys can see my scribbles here, because a lot of these ideas that Howard's talking about is stuff that is so practical. If you don't want to get an REO or probate or pre-foreclosure, this is just applicable in any part of real estate. Just having a heart, caring, putting them first, being willing to put a little money out to help folks if they're in a hardship or a time of need, being the person that your mom would be proud to say that's my son, that's my daughter. That's what Howard has really honed in on. That's a superpower. It oozes out of him. Like when you talk to him, when I hear him do these calls, he's never pushy. He's never salesy. He's always there giving of something of value, his time, his knowledge, his information to assist these folks. So take that. That's my personal takeaway. And Nick, I am so thankful you let me go first on my takeaways this time because I know it's been rough the last couple of ones. Okay, bud. And I really, really appreciate this conversation. I think it's truly been valuable in more than one way. And I personally will go back and listen to this episode again. And pull some nuggets out of it. Howard, I want to go to you last because I want you to have the last thoughts. But Mr. Nick Sakis, give me your takeaways on this, my friend. What's something you pulled away?
I got two takeaways. One is be more strategic, and number two is be more valuable. Create more value. So whatever lane you want to fit in, whether it's probate, whether it's REO, whether it's just like I said, a golf course listing in your community. Provide the most value you possibly can, actually care about what you're doing, treat your product or treat your listings as a product because you're marketing for your listing. Yes, you want to sell that house immediately, but it's your part of your portfolio that you can then express and show to other agents. I mean, not other agents, but other people that you want to list their house, other homeowners or asset managers or whatever. So be strategic, be more valuable. And this has been a great conversation.
Been phenomenal. Howard, give us some of your final thoughts. And then, of course, I would love to have you share anywhere people can get a hold of you, email, phone number, website. You pick it, brother. Let them know where to get a hold of you. But first, give us your final thoughts.
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me on this. It just, I love talking about real estate. And I know sometimes my wife, she's like, can you just stop talking about real estate? I'm like, but I love it so much, and I love, looking at houses and, a lot of my followers on Instagram, they love it. They like to look at my story because I don't show, oh, hey, we went to look at his beautiful house today. I show the worst of the worst, and they love it because it's a side that everybody doesn't see, and that's where I like to, I just like helping people. So Instagram,
awesome.
Howard Sells NJ, HowardSellsNJ@gmail.com, HowardSellsNJ.com. That's pretty much it.
Howard
Facebook
Sells
is
NJ.
There you go.
I don't know. My Facebook is like Howard.Spencer something or other. I don't know. You can find me. My picture's on there. I look like this.
There you go.
And for all of you guys listening, look for the most handsome man with a beard, goatee you've ever seen in your entire life, and that is the right profile. Okay, well, that has been absolutely astonishingly awesome. Thank you, Howard, for spending a little over an hour with us, breaking down at a 10,000-foot level, because there's so many nuances and intricacies of doing that side of the business. Guys, reach out to Howard. He gave you all the ways to reach out to him. Do it immediately if you got questions or thoughts. Nick, you have a job. Do you know what your job is?
Yep, I already got the color.
Good. We need a color for the bow on the show. What do we got?
I got 3 colors.
Oh, boy.
Because we just passed 4th of July, so I'm saying red, white, and blue.
Okay. All right, Howard, I need you to pick a color for the bow on the show as well.
I'm going to go with blue.
Blue. So we got...
Yeah, I'll go red. He can go blue. Greg, don't fuck this up.
Oh, we had to pick a different color?
Don't fuck this
I thought
up.
you meant pick one of his colors.
I'm going to go with white, Nick. Thank you.
Good. Well done. Bravo.
I'm going to tell you guys a secret joke off air. Anyways, guys, there is our show right there. We have a red, white, and blue bow for this show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging. We cannot do this show without you guys. So please like, follow, and subscribe to any and all of us on all of our different platforms. Reach out to us if you guys have a suggestion for either a topic or a guest for this show. And we would be happy to have a conversation with them and get them booked ASAP. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Until next time, peace out, ninjas. We gone.
Go subscribe to the YouTube.